Well, that's where we're at now. We're starting with that today on Sunrise Today. We're joined now by Peter Esele, former president of TUC, and PENGASSAN. I always forget that part. Yeah. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Good morning.
Well, it's just not pleasant out there for a lot of Nigerians, because, I mean, when you go through the papers, you see Nupeng say there isn't enough petroleum product or petrol to lift, that depots are operating at below 25% capacity, and then Finance Ministry has said that, look, we've paid a certain amount of money. Major marketers will tell you, well, we're trying to sort some of this out, except they use that word that I missed out, family affair. So, and then you look at all of this scenario, you ask yourself, who's calling who, or who can call who to order? And then look at the other version here, where fuel you buy finishes the same day, so the quality depreciates. It looks like a madhouse. What's your interpretation of what's going on?
I think one thing is very clear is now you have a new government coming in, and marketers are saying that they are being owned over 356 billion. And what the Ministry of Finance did was to pay a little above 150 billion. So marketers are saying they have over 200 billion outstanding. And when that happens, is that May 29th, you're going to have a new government, and the fear with the marketers, of course, which are not going to tell you, is that they want to collect their money before the new government comes in.
Is it that they think that they can't get their money when the new government comes in? Isn't it legitimate basis that they've done to show why they should pay them?
But the bottom line is that these guys are businessmen, and they look at the policies and feel that there may be a policy somersault, and there may also be some. There is no way there are no under-the-table deals going on in that sector or in this subsidy regime, which may make a lot of people feel, okay, why don't we just get as much as we can get before May 29th?
Does that suggest that we may be in for a rougher deal before May 29th?
I think we will be in, depending upon how. Let me also quote you how they sort out the family matters.
So you do agree that indeed this is a family matter. What is a very powerful family, if you prefer? Because I'm looking at the amounts involved here. We're talking billions of naira, we're not talking in the millions. And it would seem that initially the Finance Ministry also had issue with the figures that was being quoted by the marketers. They couldn't seem to agree on how much it was that was being owed.
There's no way they will agree, because the first thing is, one thing I've always looked at when we run an economy, like the way we do things here, is that where are the data? You're supposed to be records of when the ships come in, how many liters were brought in, and how many do we consume on a daily basis, and where they are. But unfortunately, you don't have a whole lot of this. And sometimes I always say that whether it is deliberate, that we have what I call selective amnesia. Some time ago, when you had the Executive Secretary of PPPRO, it was Reginald Stanley. When we had the strike of 2012, the TUC and NSC made a presentation before the Senate on a lot of sharp practices going on in the subsidy regime. And then when later Reginald Stanley came up, and he knocked off, he said about the differences were about between 5 to 7 million liters per day. So you can look at all those figures and say, hey, let's say 1 naira, 10 naira on 5 million liters a day. You know what that will amount to at the end of the year. But in all of this, no sanctions were applied. So when things are allowed to go on in a manner that is not good, we wait for the next time. Now we are talking about this now because there is suddenly scarcity. But the process leading to this scarcity that we have overlooked is what is the consequences of the action we are facing right now. So if the process is transparent and is done very well, nobody's going to hold us to ransom. And whether we like it or not, this is also a security risk.
It is.
It is a huge security risk that now you can't move. Then the productivity in the economy is also very, very big problem. Then the health of individuals, you have people queuing up in the filling station from 7 a.m. till God knows when.
So the security risk on many fronts, so that a family, it would seem, can hold a country to ransom, as it were. That people are on the streets for God knows how long. It's a safety risk as well, because all you need is someone, just dropping a cigarette somewhere, and you never can tell what the outcome will be. But I'm also looking at some of the analysis that has been done so far on this subsidy regime. You say that, you know, you had done a presentation, you know, to the National Assembly at that time. Did you follow up on it?
We did. You see, one of the things that happen in our country is that I call it what I call the front page mentality. You look at front page news and suddenly everybody's attention is on it, and then the next day it's now back. Until that similar thing happens again, that is when everybody starts talking about it. Now, all of this, nothing was put in place. Nothing was, okay, how do we ensure? Let me give an example. Let me use agriculture. If you want to buy a maize in, say, March, you expect the price to be very cheap because the rains are there. And then if you want to buy maize in September, it's going to be very expensive. Now, come to petroleum products. In January, they will tell you we consume 30 million liters. In June, we consume 20 million liters. In September, we consume 30 million liters. So everything is flat. How can that be? I expect that we should consume less of petroleum product during the rains.
Why?
One of the reasons is that the weather is cooler. Even turning on the AC in your car you may not have to turn on the AC in your car for security, not because you are really hot. And then number two is that this, apart from my neighbor, which is very common, generators that you have, a lot of people would want to turn it on, they will turn it off because the weather is very favorable at that period in time. And I expect consumption to be high November, December, January. Because all of these, if you go to Europe or America, if it is winter, their consumption level is very high because of heating. And the ones on the other side again is also very low. So in Nigeria, we don't have anything like this. All we have is just flat rate. So, okay, now what are you telling me you are paying 356 billion for subsidy? Meanwhile, you reduce the product from 97 naira to 87 naira. So what could have informed that reduction?
Marketers didn't like that.
If you feel that you cannot carry on.
No, they thought they could carry on. In fact, you know what an NPC always tells you? We will wet Abuja, we will wet Lagos with products. And that's, you know, when they say that there's enough. In fact, the last time out, they said that they had enough products, but I think was it PTD that was on strike, and so they were not lifting fuel. And so many thought, why will PTD be on strike? Is it a part of the grand design? Because NNPC did say, these products are there. And then we couldn't just connect the dots.
The PDD is not on strike now. NUPEC just told you they don't have enough fuel.
So the story keeps changing almost every time.
I think one of the things that we also have to, it has to come to how we do things here. NNPC can say they want to wet everywhere, and somebody goes out there to make a political statement. I think that's where the media also comes in, to actually inspect what they are saying, so that nobody comes here and tells us that, okay, if it is wet our cars.
Well, if you look at this, I think there's something we're not getting here, and it has to do with the amount of petroleum product that comes into the country. And if NUPENG is saying that they don't have enough, how have we been able to ascertain if these marketers that are being owed have been paid and they have truly been able to lift some of these petroleum products or bring them in barges down? It doesn't really add up. If you really don't have enough to lift, it means we don't have sufficiency of this product in the country as it now. So shouldn't we be directing our questions back to the finance ministry as to what exactly it is left with the amount owed these marketers?
I think you have to do that. But the finance ministry will tell you, from what I gather from the finance ministry, is that they've paid 156, and these marketers are even telling you that the 156 that they have paid is also part of last year's one was also part of it. So if we are not talking about first quarter have ended, so the money they're actually owing them now is over 200 billion. So what they're asking for is, give us the remainder of the money. So what we need to now ask ourselves is, how did it get to this level? What are the things that are expected of us to pay? And what is the genuine receipt and what is not the genuine one?